You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network. For more quality options programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in iTunes and on Google Play.
Welcome to the Hot Options Report, your premier source for insight into the fast-moving options market. Each day, we'll track down the products that are dominating the options chains and impacting your trading account, from Nvidia to VIX and everything in between. If it's lighting up the options tape, then you'll find it on the Hot Options Report.
All right, everybody, let's get down to business for your Hot Options Report for Wednesday, November 19th. My name, of course, Mark Longo from the OptionsInsider.com. Remind you at the top of the show, make sure you're subscribed to the full network, wherever you get your favorite podcasts. And of course, if you want to check out all the data for this show for yourselves and a whole bunch more we don't really have time to get to on the show, you want to carve up the options market in a lot of cool and unique ways that, dare I say it, even better than what your brokers bring to the table. And you can't beat the price. The Hot Options Report.com is the place to go to kick the tires and light the fires. All right, let's get down to it, see what was lighting it up. After a series of sell-offs, we've seen a little bit of green making it onto our screens. VIX giving up the ghost ever so slightly, about a point out there, closing right around 23 2/3 out there today. So VIX still looking spicy compared to when it was hanging out in the mid-teens not too long ago. Looking spicy on the volume front today as well, putting up 1.4 million contracts. That's against an ADV of 964. So again, over-delivering on the volume front, the hot option in VIX land today. 110,000 of the downside. DEES 18 puts going up for 77 cents, listeners. You like those? In which case, get while the getting is good as we keep on rolling out to SPY. SPY closing today up not quite 0.5%, about 0.4%, closing 662.63, listeners, putting up about exactly 10 million contracts. That's pretty wild against an ADV of 9 3/4. So coming in slightly above expectations. The hot option out there today, 353,000 of the 665 calls. So slightly out of the money calls, at least compared to where we closed. The price for those, the average price on those, about $1.16. Out to the S we go, listeners. The S obviously also closing up about 0.4% as well, closing 66.42.16, listeners. So a wild day out there in the markets. The S putting up some numbers today. 5.3 million contracts changing hands against an ADV of about 4.3 million. So fully 1 million contracts more than expectations in the SPX today. The hot option out there today, 128,000 of the 6,600 puts. So again, looking decidedly in the other direction, listeners. And we were flirting with that intraday. There was a little bit of whipsaw action we were flirting with. Never quite broke it, but we were flirting with that 6,600 level in the cash intraday before rallying again in the second half of the session. Might make this price of $4.86 seem a little bit more palatable. Obviously, if you bought that and rode it into the close. Not a great trade for you, unfortunately, as we keep on rolling out to small caps. Small caps closing almost literally unched. Kind of wild. Up 0.01%. Small caps closing 233.43. It's almost literally unched on the day, which is, again, kind of wild given all the volatility we've seen in small caps of late. You got to go back a ways to find a day when they were almost literally unched. Again, not unched on the volume side, though. Nearly 1.6 million contracts going up against an ADV of about 1.8 million. So a pretty active day, all things considered. The hot option out there, 117,000 of the 236 calls expiring today. Average price for these, nearly 30 cents. Once again, we did get there ever so briefly early in the session. So you bought these. Hopefully, you got out of them pretty quickly. Otherwise, hopefully you sold them. You had to grit your teeth a little bit the rest of the session, but you did pretty well if you sold these bad boys. As we keep on rolling out to the Qs closing up nearly 0.6%, closing right below the 600 level, 599.87 listeners, putting up 5.2 million contracts. So actually coming in slightly below their ADV of about 5.4 million. The hot option out there, 185,000. Of the par calls, the 600 calls, you know we're going out right at that strike. So good chance that is the hot option. The average price, nearly $2.30 for these. So we're vacillating around that strike. If you rode them through the close, maybe not the best trade, but you had your opportunities earlier in the session to get out of those, listeners. As we get into a little bit of single name equity action, listeners, was it a hot day in single name equities? The answer was, once again, not really. 544,000 contracts on the tape. I get you to our old pal, the artist formerly known as Facebook. Meta closing off 7 handles, or about 1.2%. 590.32 is where it went out, listeners. The hot option, about 19,000 of the par calls, 600 calls expiring on Friday. Average price for these, a little over $4. And once again, they are not giving these away. Can Meta reclaim the par strike by the end of the week, listeners? A few more sessions, we shall find out as we keep on rolling to number 9, the Fruit Company. It's a day that ends in Y. That means Apple has to rally. They're up a little over 1.25 points, or about 0.5%, listeners, closing 268.56. Up a little over 1.1 points on the day for the Fruit Company, putting up 553,000 contracts on the tape. The hot option out there today, 29, almost 30,000 of the 275 calls. Again, expiring this week, average price about 87 cents. So a decently optimistic strike, but we got a few more sessions. We'll see if the Fruit Company can get there. Meanwhile, the monster continues to look a lot less scary these days. MSTR closing 186.5, off nearly 10%, or about 20.3 handles out there today. So again, it's been a rough go in the crypto markets of late. The monster putting up 561,000 contracts for the number 8 spot, the hot option out there today. To the upside still, 17, almost 18,000 of the 220s expiring on Friday. Average price for these, still 45 cents. Not giving these away. Now, there is OI on this strike, so there's a good chance someone was getting the heck out of Dodge on these, but we'll keep an eye on the monster as we keep on rolling to number 7. Our old pal Goog rallying today over $8. About exactly $8, actually, or nearly 3%, about 2.8%, closing 292.99. So pretty much 293 for the Googs. They've been on a good run ever since it was disclosed that Warren Buffett has a decent chunk of them now. 568 on the tape for them today. The hot option out there, 33,000 of the par calls, the 300 calls. Average price for these, $3.66. They may seem optimistic given the rest of the tech economy right now, but when you got Buffett and AI together in the same name, no strike is out of reach, listeners, as we keep on rolling to number 6, our old pal Palantir. Trading at a level we haven't seen in a little bit. Palantir 165.42, closing off nearly $2, or about 1.1% today. So again, come in for Palantir, putting up 625,000 contracts on the tape. The hot option out there, 32,000 of the 180s. Average price for these, 41 cents. So a little bit of a reach. There is OI on these. So once again, it could be someone getting the heck out of Dodge as we keep on rolling to number 5. AMD 223.55 is where it went out, off nearly $7, about 6 3/4, or about 3%. So another rough day for AMD, putting up 673,000 contracts today. The hot option out there, 45,000 of the 240s. Average price for these, about $1.56. If that seems rich, they did get up to about 235 very early in the session, so makes it a little bit more palatable. Either way, that seems like a pretty optimistic strike with only a few sessions left to go. Can we get there again, listeners? We shall see in AMD as we keep it in the A tech names, listeners. For number 4, it's Amazon. Closing today, 222.69, up about 15 cents. So not a huge day for them net on the day, but putting up 835,000 contracts today. The hot option out there, 32, almost 33,000. Of the 225s, average price for these, $1.76. These certainly seem like they're much more relevant than the 240s in AMD, but we shall see. And you know what? If you're not done with A tech names, how about Alphabet coming in at number 3, aka Class A, closing $292.81, listeners, up about $8.50 or exactly 3%, putting up 1.06 million contracts for the number 3 spot, the hot option out there, back to the upside, 77,000. Of the pars expiring on Friday, average price for these about $3.60. So once again, not giving these away. Can Alphabet Class A threaten that strike by the end of the week? We shall see as we keep on rolling out to number 2. We're back to the usual order of things, listeners. Tesla coming in at number 2, closing pretty much at 404, up about 2 3/4, about 2/3% today, putting up 1.62 million contracts for the number 2 spot, the hot option out there today, 83,000 of the 410s. Average price for these, $6.68. So once again, if you're buying these, you need Tesla to continue the momentum throughout the rest of the week as we keep on rolling and continue our momentum right on into the big dog that's announcing after the bell. It is Nvidia, closing today 186.52, up a little over $5 or almost 3% on the day. So a nice pre-earnings rally for Nvidia. We all know whither Nvidia goes, so goes the Mag 7 or the Mag 10, whatever you want to call them out there right now. And certainly whither goes a lot of the market. So a lot of eyes on Nvidia after the bell. Can they turn around this little bit of a tech wreck we're seeing, or are they going to add to it? We shall see. Either way, they added to a lot of flow today. Over 3.5 million contracts going up. The hot option on a hot day in Nvidia today, you know, it's probably going to be to the upside, a little bit of upside optimism. That was the case. 176,000 of the par calls, the 200 calls expiring on Friday. Average price for these, $1.85. Can Nvidia get there? I guess we will all find out, listeners. Looking pretty good in the first blush in the after hours. The stock right now right around 194. So the pars looking decent. Can it continue this momentum? We shall see tomorrow, listeners. That's going to do it for us on the Hot Options Report today. Back again tomorrow on the option block with our friends, the Flowmaster from SIBO, and then on This Week in Futures Options with our friends over there from CME before we're back to wrap up another wild day, including Nvidia post-earnings session on another episode of the Hot Options Report. Remember, if you want to see all this data and a whole bunch more, thehotoptionsreport.com is the place to go. We kept that URL as simple as you could possibly keep it. Check that out. You're going to love it. See you back here tomorrow, another episode of the Hot Options Report. Oh, yeah. And stay safe out there, everybody.
You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network. For more quality options programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in iTunes and on Google Play.